Hi, welcome back. This is China Today 2018 series presentation number 3. This is about the Chinese New Year in 2018. This is the year of the dog. So let's see what the Chinese leader do before the Chinese New Year. It has been a tradition that the Chinese leaders will go to the rural areas, visit the poor before the Chinese New Year. Xi Jinping is not an exception, so he is also doing that. This is one of the reports from Xinhua News Agency about Xi's visits to the rural area where it's poor. This year, he went to Liangshan, which is a pretty poor area. So let's see what the Xinhua special talk about that. And if you like, but actually the act of visiting the poor is at least a demonstration of the principal policy, or at least one of the major policy of the current Chinese government to reduce poverty, to eliminate poverty. So the next video is a video of him visiting some places. Well, the last scene we see is actually a drone video taking the videos of a village built after the 2008 earthquake. During that time, a lot of lives is lost and whole villages are being destroyed. So what the Chinese government done was to move these villagers into a new area where they rebuilt, and these are the houses they built, and then ask them to start a business. It looks to me that this is has become a tourist town, and they visit one of the owners. The owners is now running a restaurant. Okay, so that is what the Chinese leader do. What about the common people? Okay, of course, common people go home. So within the 40 days before and after the Chinese New Year, or called Spring Festival, so 20 days before and 20 days after, it is estimated that the Chinese will make about 3 billion trips during this period, 2018. In fact, this is not the peak. Actually, the peak was back in 2014, when the Chinese made 3.6 billion trips during the same period, 30 days and 20 days before and after the Spring Festival. So the number of trips had decreased. Part of the reason probably is because more and more people do not need to leave their family behind in a rural area, especially in the West, and then they have to go to the East, to go to the coastal areas to work. Because as the One Belt, One Road develops, part of the economy is actually coming up from the middle of China, and including the western areas. Those were the poorest areas when China started developing. But now the economy is moving inland, and therefore some of these people do not need to go to the coast to work, and therefore the number of trips decreased. So as I said, it's estimated that in 2018 it will make about 3 million trips. In terms of the rail travel, it represents about a 3 to 5% of the travel. In 2002, it's about 130 million trips, and it rises to about 326 million trips. So that is about 10% of the travel is on the rail. So the road traffic take out the bulk of the travels, basically because it is cheaper. This massive movement actually started back in 1953. It was noted that within a month before and after the Spring Festival, the number of travelers compared with the normal days rises by about 35%. and therefore from that time onward, the Ministry of Rails is tasked to manage the traffic during that period. Now, this is a photo I took when I was in Shenzhen on the trip to Xi'an. So that is a normal day at inside a high-speed rail station. So I have already checked in, go through the security, and waiting to get onto the high-speed rail. So I took a picture. So that is the normal situation in a high-speed rail station. Fast forward to February this year, just before the Chinese New Year. This is how it looks like. So the high-speed rail stations are packed. Yes, there are some region which is less packed, but at most of them is very, very busy. So as we mentioned before, most of the travel is on the road. In particular, is on motorcycle, because motorcycle is one of the cheapest means of moving from one area to another area. So in the past, some of the workers actually will carry their spouse if they have, or the children one. So 3 person on a motorbike with all the gifts bringing back from the coast, and they will have to ride for 40-50 hours from the coastal region back to home. So that is a very hard journey. Okay, so that was a little video showing you about the motorcycle army. Okay, the people using the motorcycle to go home during the peak. In one day, there will be about 200,000 motorcycles passing through the toll. They don't have to pay for the toll because it's motorcycle. And some of them, some of the counties will set up these rest stations where food will be provided, hot, usually hot congee with a bit of meat, and then there will also be technicians to look at their motor car and to fix anything. And these are all free service, armed by volunteers. But in the past, many of those riding home on the motorcycle just ignore this resting stop because they really want to rush home. As the concern for safety or safety awareness increase, more and more motorcycle travelers are willing to stop at these stations, take a bit, eat a bit of thing, get a little bit of rest, and then move on. The police also take opportunities, and then they will gather a number of motorcycles together, and then they will lead the way with a police car, maintaining their speed so that they are not speeding, and then eventually hope to get them home safer. One of the special things we noticed this year is that there is something called reverse travel. Now, what is reverse travel? In the past, most of the traveling is for the younger people going back to their old village. So that is the travel from east to west, because a lot of these so-called migrant workers come from the western areas and moving to the coastal area like Guangdong or Fujian where they work. So that during the days before the Chinese New Year or before the Spring Festival, we see the traffic coming from east to west. But after the Spring Festival, the traffic reverses. But this year, they also noticed there's a lot of parents coming out from the village to visit their children working in the coastal cities. Now, to do that, there are several criteria. First of all, these are parents, they probably cannot travel on a motorcycle. They need to travel on a bus or a train that is a little bit more expensive. The other thing is the children must be able to provide at least a few days of accommodation for their parents. So this reverse travel indicates that some of those migrant workers is now quite comfortable in the area they work. At least they will have some kind of accommodation which will allow their parents to stay with them. Another interesting observation is that the holiday travel numbers also increases. There are more people taking on this time, as it is a public holiday for quite a bit of time. They will take this opportunity to travel either inside China or out of China. Actually, I noticed that last year, if I were to travel from Melbourne here to some cities in China during the Chinese New Year, the airfare return is about 400 Australian dollars. So that is very cheap. Probably because the airlines notice there is a lot of outgoing traffic, and therefore they need to fill up the seats on the return flight, and therefore they put up this cheap airfare. Another interesting experiment also started this year is the MOR. MOR stands for Ministry of Railways. Experimented by sending the workers' motorcycle to their hometown. Now, most of these high-speed rail stations are in the hub or city hub, bigger towns. So these migrant workers working in the coastal areas, of course, can go to the high-speed rail station pretty easy. But once they arrive at their hometown, there will be a distance between the rail station and their own village. It might be a few hours. So that last mile or the last trip is very difficult. So the ministry started experiment this year. So they offer about 3,000 high-speed rail return tickets. So these migrant workers almost try to draw a lottery. They put in their request, and if they're accepted, then they will give their own motorcycle to the railway transport stations. These people will check their motorcycle and then remove all the petrol, gas or petrol from the motorcycle, and then shift their motorcycle to their destination point. Then a few days later, they are given high-speed rail tickets, and they take the high-speed rail to the destination stations, and they will be met by representatives. This representative will take them on a bus and send them to a petrol station where they will pick up their motorcycle. Then they will fill up their motorcycle for free, and then they can ride their motorcycle back to their home village. After that, if they want to return, they just again send the motorcycle to the people working for the MOR, and then they will ship their motorcycle back to the originating stations. So that is what they have experimented this year. Whether it's successful or not, we don't know yet. So depending on their views, probably they will want to do that more next year. Some of my students ask me why Chinese government is doing this for free. Well, put it in one way. First of all, yes, during this period, high-speed rail tickets are difficult to get. But at the same time, running one or more services has a minimum addition of cost. Now, I always argue that at the moment China is run as one economic entity. If we look at that in that way, that means whatever the consumption in renminbi can be solved by the Chinese government printing the money. What the country actually spend, that means through foreign exchange, buying raw material, buying all kind of technology from outside, then the Chinese really pay that money using foreign exchange. At the moment, from the Chinese government's point of view, managing this foreign exchange is much more important than managing I can't say managing the domestic economy is not important, but giving these people a free ticket. Remember, just remember, the high-speed rail is owned by the Chinese government, so it is using their own service to service the people. Minimum cost from the employer's point of view, you just run more service. And remember, the cost of running this service is only can be paid by printing the money. So that is easy. On the other hand, all the gas petroleum saved is money saved in the foreign exchange, because after all your foreign exchange, you need foreign exchange to buy petroleum. So it makes sense to me. So that is what happened. Okay, when these people go back to the Chinese, their home or wherever, then like everywhere in the world, the TV stations try to capture eyeballs, and so they will have gala, Chinese New Year gala. The 2018 Chinese New Year gala is about 4.5 hours long. This has been running for many, many years. And the 2014 version of it had drawn an estimated 800 million viewers to the podcast. And therefore, it is entered into the Guinness World Record as the world's most watched television program. In the last few years, CCTV is able to broadcast their show on real time on foreign media like YouTube. And therefore, there's a lot of overseas Chinese is also able to watch this New Year gala on real time. So it is estimated that this year there will be about 1 billion viewers. So that will be another world record.